Hi, so welcome to Yale in Hollywood Fest 2022. It's our third global virtual film festival, and I'm very excited to welcome you. I'm the festival director, Quentin Lee, and here we have the filmmaker and actress from the opening film, Barely Recognizable, the opening double feature, one of the films, and then in an hour, exactly, we're going to have the Q&A with the other team, filmmakers team from the opening double feature, American Justice on Trial, and we have Lucy Wilkins, who's the director of the film, and also we have Noelle Mercer, who is the lead actress and is currently in LA. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself a little bit. Lucy, I know that you just graduated. I caught up with Noelle a little bit, and
Yes.
where are you? Tell me where
I'm
are you right now?
I'm also in LA. Noelle and I just called before this and we're like, we need to hang out. We're both in LA. So yeah, I moved to LA after graduation at the beginning of June. And yeah, I've been kind of trying to immerse myself in the film scene here. I have two part-time jobs right now. One is production coordinator for TV chef Candice Kumai, and then the other one is a part-time freelance writing gig on like a comedy skit series. And so it's a lot of fun because it kind of feeds both areas of creativity, because like the musical I'd love to write, but I also love to be on sets and direct and be busy. And so life is very hectic, but in a good way. It's film hectic, and that's kind of how I was trying to make it.
And Noelle, how about you? You're also in LA, and tell me a little bit. You just graduated from Yale, and then you are out here.
Yeah, so I just graduated like Lucy in May, and I came out here wanting to follow my dreams and act, and I signed with Ren Management as my mother agent, and so I've been submitting, to projects and getting to know the industry and getting seen by some casting directors. Hopefully they remember me. But I fully came out here thinking that I would, get a day job as a barista or something like that. And I ended up at an automotive startup working in their social media department. So I have like a 9 to 5 that is great. And I go to work and then I get home and I submit my tapes, and I feel like I'm living the dream. So very, very hectic, but amazing and awesome couple of months after post-graduation.
Yeah, so I just want to congratulate you both because Barely Recognizable is just such a surprise and discovery. And I'm not really a musical person. I really hate every musical that I've watched. And when I watched the film, I was so compelled, and I just thought, it's such a well-made, it's almost like a feature, because that's why we put it in the feature section, because I felt like it's really close to almost like a feature. It's just a little bit shorter, like 40 minutes. And I want Lucy, tell us how Barely Recognizable happened.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of my COVID baby, I would say. John Andrews, who teaches screenwriting and directing at Yale, will always say that I'm a little bit crazy. Like, I remember in intermediate, I was like, I'm going to shoot my film in England over October break. And he was like, you don't really have to do that. You could just, shoot it on a beach in Connecticut. And so I mentioned to John jokingly that I wanted to make a musical because I love musicals. I'm first gen low income, but a big thing for me when I was a kid was that my grandma every Christmas and birthday would take me to see a West End show. And it was like such a big deal because like that kind of thing was like such a huge treat. And I kind of thought that like most musicals you see come from stage and then go to film. And so when we were making Barely Recognizable, I was like, I want to make this for film first. And how it kind of came to be is I'm from Chesterfield, which is in the middle of England in the Peak District. And Harry, who did the music, is also from Chesterfield. We randomly met at Yale one day by walking past each other, and we had the same accent. And we were like, wait a sec, where are you from? Because there's not people from Chesterfield at Yale. And so we were a little bored during the pandemic. We both took semesters off and we were at home and we were hiking. And I kind of said to Harry, like, I really want to make this musical. And Harry was like, I've been wanting to do film stuff for a while. And so that's kind of like where it started. We were on a hike in the Peak District, and then I wrote the script and sent it to Harry and was like, what do you think? Are you in? And then he started piecing together music, and it just kind of spiraled from there. The story of Gracie is based on it's semi-autobiographical. So I was in an inpatient in an eating disorder clinic like 6 weeks before I moved to Yale. And obviously that was a huge thing to navigate during my freshman year, and like being one in a new country, being freshly out of an eating disorder inpatient clinic. And like it felt like the story that I wanted to tell to wrap everything up. Because at the time when I entered Yale, I thought I was going to be a chemistry major and go to med school and act and do film stuff on the side. And so it sounds cheesy, but I discovered myself, which we start to see Gracie do in the movie a little bit. And that's kind of why I wanted to tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, I find that it's definitely a very personal story, but it's also very, almost because of the music and just how it's being put together, it's so universally identifiable. And I just have to say, like, I was like just very compelled. And what I was thinking was that I thought it was actually, it's interesting. I thought it was actually Noelle's story. I sort of almost thought she was a filmmaker, but then of course I looked at the credits and it's like, oh, Lucy wrote it. And obviously you're not, African-American and you're British. And so I just want you to talk a little bit about like, how did this casting choice came about?
Yeah, so how this came about is when I wrote Gracie, like obviously like a lot of the ways she feels kind of came from my experience. And I don't want to say that my experience is like generic, because eating disorders are all so different and like present in different ways. In terms of casting, the first thing Harry and I wanted was we wanted everyone who acted in the movie to also sing their parts. And so we both kind of are like heavy in knowing who singers and actors are on campus. And we were really, especially Barely Recognizable, we were incredibly ambitious with the range in that song. And we thought we were going to have to like pull it down and have a smaller range. And both of us were like, like Noelle could make this happen. So we had a lot of auditions, I think, because it was the first show, like the first kind of film happening post-COVID. So we were overwhelmed with an incredibly like diverse range of actors who are insanely talented. Like it took a lot. There was so many combinations of cast. And I was definitely aware that I'm white and like can't write the story of an African American. And Noelle and I mean, you can speak to this, Noelle, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but we had discussions around like Gracie's hair and things like that. And like the script adapted once we cast Noelle. And if you want to take over that, Noelle, because I don't want to talk on your behalf about that. But once Noelle was cast, there was changes to kind of like alter the experience with Noelle as lead.
And Noelle, why don't you talk a little bit about the collaboration? Just like, how was it working with Lucy?
Yeah, I mean, so the casting went out, or the audition announcement went out, and I remember getting a slew of emails from some professors at Yale, and Lucy had emailed me. I think even Xander, the producer, our producer, emailed me at one point, and I assumed that this was just, marketing blast, like want to get as many people as possible, which it was. Obviously, you guys got a lot of interest. And when I read through the character descriptions, I was actually drawn to the role of Issa at first. And so I sent in my audition materials, hoping to book Issa, who was eventually played by the amazing Nat Lopez. So that was great. But I think it's speaking of like how the role shifted once I was cast, I think in like sort of the micro details may have shifted a bit. Like we decided, okay, well, Gracie will be biracial and she'll have a white mom and a black dad. And we'll have a story about her hair and have that be a sort of theme that, we talk about throughout the film, or at least is seen throughout the film. But when it comes to the macro ideas and the overall, Gracie as a character did not change at all, at least in my opinion. I think the beauty of this story and the strength in Lucy and Harry's storytelling is that they created this narrative that is so specific, but that just breeds so much universality. Like I read Gracie's story, and even though it wasn't my own, it felt like it was, because we've all been in that place where we want to, shed some part of our identity and like become brand new. And as much as that would be great, we do carry some parts of our past with us everywhere that we go. And that can be a burden, but it can also be beautiful. And it can also be a story of triumph and strength. And so I think, like, yes, some of the micro things had to change, but they were very easy fixes that were like, oh, okay. I remember the mad search for Gracie's father because we needed to find an older Black gentleman to play Gracie's dad. And so we were like looking all around campus, like, where can we find an older Black gentleman? And actually, we ended up casting a fellow of Saybrook, who happened to be my TA for a theater class that I took when I was a first year. So very full circle moment. But yeah.
And Lucy, I just want to applaud you. I mean, this is really the perfect example of what we want to do called colorblind casting in Hollywood, because the reality is that you guys are very lucky in a newer generation, because back for my generation, having come out to LA in the 90s, was that, you could, I'm not an actor, but even for 10 years ago, if you see a role that says, oh, like ethnic non-specific, they're really looking for a Caucasian person, a Caucasian actor. And I think it's just the film felt so diverse and so natural in terms of the casting. Can you talk a little bit about that, Lucy? Just about how do you just did colorblind casting? And
yeah, we did casting, and honestly, it's a testament to the talent that auditioned. Like, Harry and I had so many combinations. Like, there was a world in which Noelle was Issa. I think, like, the day before we announced casting, we had 4 different sets of like who would be what, and it was honestly there was so, like, there was a lot of not heated discussion, but it was kind of like, we need this person to hit this note, and like this person would be better here. And I think in terms of like colorblind casting, we wanted the auditions to be so accessible. Like, we arranged like so many Zoom sessions, and like if people couldn't audition, like making sure we found another time. And I think part of our strategy in terms of that was making sure, I mean, Noelle said she was blessed from like every angle. We made sure, like, when we compiled our list of actors, that like anyone who could potentially play this role kind of saw the notice. Because I think it's so easy at Yale to be blasted with so many emails and like miss what's happening. And part of that was also reaching out to the School of Drama students, and we were like blessed to have 4 YSD actors in the show, and obviously they're phenomenal and have insane schedules. And so having them part of the project was a blessing also. And yeah, I think with Harry and I, we were aware that we were 2 white people leading the casting process, but we wanted to make sure that like it was as fair, and I know all you can speak to it, hopefully as easy as possible. And we just tried to like make it smooth. It was, during 2021 spring semester, so there was no in-person school. So we had these like crazy Zoom auditions and trying to do match like people and have people on Zooms together. And obviously it's kind of hard to do a chemistry test when people are on Zoom because you don't really know what's happening. And so a lot of the time the actors met each other was the first day on set. Like, I think Noelle and Nat met day 1 of shooting.
Yeah. So anyways, I know that I want to be very mindful of your time. So I just want to ask you one more question, Lucy, is that how, what has been the reception for this movie been like, and where have you shown the movie, and then and obviously it's here now, where has it gone?
Yeah, the premiere was at Rhode Island International Film Festival, and that was it was also one of the first festivals we heard back from, and it was a huge surprise for us because most of the festivals we applied in the student category, but Rhode Island didn't have a student category. And I told Xander, our producer, that there was no point submitting it in the regular shorts because it's an Academy qualifying festival, and this is a very low budget student short. We had a high music budget because we received an arts discretionary fund, and so we were able to spend a lot of time in the studio, but the actual shoot budget was around $2,400. So to produce that movie on that budget is truly insane. And so I didn't really think we stood a chance. So that was, the first one and a big surprise. And it's, been well received, and it's been really nice because I think a lot of people, even if they haven't been through Gracie's story, can relate to somebody who has been through it. And one of the things I wanted to do was kind of, there's a normalization of eating disorder culture on like college campuses, people potentially like not eating before going out to look thinner and like things like that. And so I kind of, obviously there was Gracie's story, but I kind of wanted to shine a light. And it's been nice, like several actors in the movie, and people who have seen it have reached out to me with very personal emails that kind of made me cry. The most special screening for me was at graduation. I went in the Saybrook cinema room with just my family, who had never visited Yale until graduation because of COVID, and I just sat and watched it with like my core people, and that was the most special moment for me, because like they hadn't seen any of it, and obviously they, hadn't even seen Yale, and so like for them to see Gracie's story kind of having been the people who like got me through everything was a really special moment. So to me, that was like the best screening in the world.
Okay, and one last question for you, Lucy, is that what are you up to next? Are you making another film or a feature?
A lot of feedback we've received from festivals is that people would like Barely Recognizable to be a feature or a stage show. So I need to talk to Harry, because we live in different places and have crazy schedules, but that would be the dream. The movie is an unusual format, and the reason for that is because we couldn't really make a 10-minute musical because it would just be a music video, 2 songs back to back. We didn't have the time or budget to make a feature, because already this was a very ambitious project for a thesis project at Yale, and John Andrews, I think in email I have him saying like, you're absolutely insane, but I know you're going to do it anyway. So and the reason we kept it under 40 minutes was because we knew by making it over 20 minutes, we were going to take ourselves out of a lot of festivals we could apply to, because 20 minutes is a short limit. But there's the other half were under 40. And so that's why we kind of capped it at this unusual short. And kind of an inspiration for that was there was an AFI thesis film in 2019 called Marriage Material, and it's a 32-minute musical. And I saw that just when I was thinking about the idea, and I kind of liked the structure of it, and I was like, okay, so someone has made a 30-ish minute musical before and it works, and it also feels a little bit like a proof of concept. Like there's so much more to Gracie's story, but also the other characters. There's so many, they're incredible actors, but all with like special caveats. Like you don't see this as much in the film because of a time thing, but like everyone had like big backgrounds of like who they were, and so the actors like really know who they were playing, even if like they only had a couple of lines in the movie. And so there's a lot more to the story, and so in a dream world we'd love to continue with Barely Recognizable in some capacity, and I'm working on some separate writing projects for non-musical projects as well.
Wow, fantastic. Anyways, I'll let you get back to set. And so
Thank you. I'm
even
sorry.
for a filmmaker, that have made some films, I'm so inspired by your film. So thank you so much for being part of Yale in Hollywood Festival. And
thank you for having us. It's so nice to be in the festival, kind of where it started, because the people, my experience at Yale, the funding we received, the kindness of the cast and crew and professors just made this the best experience. Like it was such a the work schedule was insane, and Noelle can talk about that when I'm gone, and she can say that I worked everybody really hard, but it was also a very, very happy set, and people were so kind. And I hope that like in the future, wherever the people who are involved in the movie go in the industry, that's something that can kind of continue, like leading sets with kindness. And that's something that I'm going to try and maintain in the future anyway.
well, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And
I'm sorry I have to go. Bye. Thank you.
So Noelle, now back to you. I just want to ask you, like, what is, I think like acting is a talent, and being able to sing and act is like, that's crazy. And I just thought you did an amazing job. And can you just tell us a little bit about the process of how you embody the role of Gracie, and is the music separate? Or do you think how do you embody the whole kind of like acting in musical and acting in music, and how did you approach the role?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that question. That's a really good question. I actually come from a background in musical theater. I grew up singing in church, and then my parents kind of saw how I got on stage with the praise and worship team, and I was singing the music, but I was also like performing, and I was telling a story. And I think for me, music and acting and telling a story and conveying something to an audience has always been intrinsically linked. And so my parents saw that in me and they said, okay, let's get this girl in a musical theater camp. So when I started Barely Recognizable, I was really excited because I was like, oh my goodness, I can do what I have done for my entire life, musical theater. I think the challenge with a movie musical is when you're on stage and you're singing your song and you're feeling whatever, you want to make sure that the person in the front row is getting the same exact performance as the person in the balcony. But film is so different, and film really relies on the eyes and what we're feeling internally. And so I feel whenever I sing, I feel so deeply that it's like a full body experience. And so learning how to take that full body experience and internalize it and make it something more intimate between me and the one person who's watching it, was awesome exercise. And I think Lucy and Charlie, our DP, helped so much with that. I think in terms of the character of Gracie, she's a little different than me in that she's a little more reserved and shy. I'm a very big person. I love to smile. I love to laugh. Grace is a little more reserved. But I think in terms of her depth of feeling, Gracie feels so much. And so I think any other format to tell this story, Gracie's story in particular, would not be as authentic. I think the reason why characters in a musical sing is because words are just simply not enough to express how they are feeling. And so Gracie sings because there are no words to express how she feels in this party, being surrounded by all these people who are seemingly having a great time, and she's worried about like the calories and the punch and what is she doing here, and I have to sing now. And so it was really awesome to bring my experience in musical theater to an on-screen performance, but also interesting to learn how to adapt and create and craft a character that perhaps would translate better through the screen versus on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really it's really a powerful performance. And first of all, you are an undergraduate, right? You were an undergraduate, right?
Yes.
So did you have to compete against, like, for example, Yale School of Drama students for the role?
So yes, actually, Nat, who plays Issa, is Yale School of Drama. Nome, who played Jack, Yale School of Drama. Shamali, who played one of my roommates, is also Yale School of Drama. And I had no idea that this was happening. I thought this was strictly an undergraduate production. And then the cast list came out, and I saw YSD next to some of the folks' names in the cast list, and I was like, what is going on? Wait, what is happening here? And I just feel so blessed and honored that Lucy decided to entrust this story to me. It's a very personal one to her. I feel like it's personal to me as well. So I don't know if competing is the right word. I think I was definitely like, oh my goodness, I am among some very talented folks in this cast. So I feel very lucky that I got to bring Gracie's story to life.
Yeah, and then I'm curious, like, because I went to Yale many years ago, almost 30 years ago, and I remember that there wasn't that much, basically there wasn't that much filmmaking on campus, and we'll be making short films. And what was it like now, actually, just at Yale? And obviously, I've seen, like, I'm not sure you know Lucy Powers and also Delilah Napier, and I think that was they made a feature, and it was like really, really good. And actually we screened it for the Yale Hollywood Fest, the first year film festival. And yeah, what was it like at Yale, like, in filmmaking and acting and, wanting to be in film?
Yeah, you know what? In my time at Yale, it feels like that there was a very distinct separation between the theater scene and the film scene. And you would think that, the two scenes would sort of communicate with each other, because the theater folks are the actors and the film folks are the people that are making the films, and we kind of both need each other. But in a weird way, we kind of stayed a little separate. I think with the pandemic, actually, because live theater wasn't as much of an option, theater makers started to rely on more advanced modes of storytelling, you know, using a camera, perhaps doing a live feed performance, or recording a performance and then having it be shown through a Zoom or through, you know, another means. And so we kind of had to hop on over to the film kids and be like, hey, how do you all do this? Like, we're not actually sure how this works. And so it was almost a blessing in disguise in that we had to sort of collaborate with the film kids. And the community, the film community, they are so tight knit and they all work on each other's films. Everyone has a new project that they're doing, and this weekend they're going to do this, and the next weekend they're going to rent an Airbnb and shoot 5 shorts in one weekend. And it's very fast paced and exciting. And I think that it's a small community, but it's growing. They now have the Cinemat, which is like the Dramat equivalent for the film, like a film producing body organization. And so they have workshops and they're getting funding and finding a way to make filmmaking at Yale more accessible in the same way that theater is. We're very lucky in that Yale has a lot of resources to make theater through like the CPA grants and through the Dramat. And so I think the Cinemat is trying to do the same thing and making filmmaking more accessible.
Fantastic. And the last question I have is that I mean, I just really feel your performance in the film was so remarkable, in the sense that I was thinking like, well, it's a film about as young as almost like a freshman, right? And she's going to school, and I almost was kind of looking for kind of an antagonist in the piece, and because that's basically, you always have a protagonist and antagonist, and that's how drama came about. And really, but for this film, I don't think there's an antagonist other than it's really about her, and she's sort of struggling herself. And I'm just so amazed how you can brought this drama to such a real and identifiable kind of way without actually an external antagonist. Can you talk about that?
Thank you. That's very, very kind of you to say. I think one of the reasons I was drawn to Issa more than Gracie when viewing the cast or character breakdown was I thought Gracie was going to be a really hard role to play, because so much you're right, there is no outside external antagonist. Gracie almost acts as her own antagonist. It's sort of the man versus self dilemma, and that she is her best advocate, but also her own worst enemy. And she tries so hard and she wants to be better, but she doesn't actually know how to get there just yet. And so she kind of falls into some self-destructive behaviors that she doesn't even view as self-destructive. And I looked at all that and I was like, wow, whoever's going to do that, they're going to have to do a lot of work, a lot of given circumstances, a lot of like internal, like what's going on, who, what, when, where, why. And so, when I was cast as Gracie, I was obviously thrilled, but also a little apprehensive, because there was just a lot of work that I had to do with myself. And I feel again so blessed and lucky to have Lucy and Harry and Charlie and all the wonderful people who worked on this film to sit down and for us to talk about the ways in which we can bring Gracie's internal struggle to the forefront, whether that's through lighting or through the camera angles or through a musical note or motif. And so, yeah, I think Gracie is her own worst enemy, but by the end, and this is the triumph of the film, she's finally able to look herself in the mirror and say to herself, you are beautiful. Even if you don't feel it, you are beautiful. And I'm going to tell you that every single day. And I think that's just the most beautiful thing in this film.
Well, thank you very much, Noelle. I mean, I just, so I hope all of you guys will be able to catch Belly Recognizable this coming up 3 days in the festival. And thank you so much for being part of the festival. And yeah.
Thank you, Quentin, so much. This has been wonderful. I say this on behalf of Lucy and the whole entire Barely Recognizable team. Thank you so much to Yale and Hollywood Fest for having us. We're so thrilled. And we're also so excited with the lineup this year. I mean, these films just, they look amazing.
Yeah, no doubt I'll be seeing you on the big screen very soon.
Oh,
I'm for sure. Take care.
thank you.